So my topic is to tell what we have done for voice ergonomics in Finland and what is the need in future. We have seminars in Institute of Occupational Health since 2008 for occupational healthcare personnel, physicians, nurses and physiotherapists. Then we have lectures, presentations and talks to employers and employee, but these are sporadic, and the target groups have been teachers, preschool teachers, priests, and those who are working in church. Then there are lectures at universities for students in Tampere University in logopedic education, vocalogy education, and Technical University of Tampere. The voice ergonomics is part of ergonomic education, Turku University for logopedic education, and I try to get this also to teacher education in one city in Finland. And it's also voice ergonomics a lot in logopedic education in Åbo Academy University in Turku. It is Swedish. Then we have these two books published, 2009-2011, Handbook and Checklist for Voice Ergonomic Assessment in Work Environment, and the other book, which you saw here, was Ergonomics. The first was 2003, and then the second 2011. They are in Finnish and in Swedish. Then we have the information cards. Then I can spread them. They can be got in internet. They are in Swedish and Finnish. We can give usually to employee, patients, employer. There are some information and guiding how to use voice. Then we have in Finland several scientists who have been working making science that tangent somehow voice ergonomics. Professor Wilkman has made a lot of publications, Laukkanen and me too, and Professor Simberi, Leena Rantala, and etc. We have about 1,050 publications concerning somehow voice ergonomics. At the moment, doctoral theses are under work. Electroglottograph, measuring voice, vocal exercises in teachers, voice ergonomic situations in schools, voice and stress in teachers, and exposure to, for example, organic dust, and so on. Then we have Finnish Voice Ergonomic Association that is grounded 2011, and we have about 60 members, and we have also one member from Iceland. There are speech therapists, phoniatricians, acousticians, and vocalogues. And the goal of this association is to have seminars once a year, and international or national every other year. Then legislation, laws, decrees and regulations are like must. They include a control and sanction if not followed. But there is also standards that is used for guidance and for recommendations. They are voluntary but may also carry some pressure, for example, for employee to follow the guidance of the standards. Then we have laws of health, law of occupational diseases, law of occupational safety, and law of occupational health care. Law of occupational disease define what is an occupational disease, and voice disorder in which is behind vocal nodules fulfill this criteria of an occupational disease in teachers and preschool teachers. And there is a regulation of occupational disease that in more detail define what can be occupational disease. And really vocal nodules fulfill these criteria. Then there is a law of occupational safety. For example, employers should take care of workers' safety and health with measures that is needed. And employers should give workers an aid, for example, an amplifier that the worker needs to prevent an accident or a disease. So a lot of things are written in laws already. Law of occupational health care. Employers should arrange occupational health care to prevent health risks that the work exposure may cause and to enhance safety and health in work. Then we have regulations that concern buildings, regulation of sound insulation and control, and regulation in building that concern indoor air quality and ventilation. And for example, this regulation that have the same power as a law say that a building should be planned so that noise to which people are exposed to remains so low that it does not cause risk for their health, and it gives possibility to sleep, rest and work in good conditions enough. So this is actually written in our law. And then we have standards concerning the indoor air quality, and then how to measure some particles in the air. Then we have the standard acoustic classification of spaces of buildings. This is already quite old. It concerns daycare centers, schools, facilities for the elderly, healthcare facilities, dwellings, hotels and lodgings, offices, industrial workplaces. And there are set reverberation times, speech transmission indexes, airborne, sound insulation, etc. Sound levels caused by heating, ventilation. And this is an example in school classrooms, normal-sized school classrooms, reverberation times. At the moment, this is 0.5 to 0.6 seconds, and there are also in Finland 4 classes, A, B, C, D, and the A class should be applied in new buildings. But if somebody wants to classify the old ones, so there are all the other classification, but I think so that always in new buildings this A class should be applied. What the exact values should be, we should think again and again through if these are the right ones, and also is the reverberation time the best parameter to measure acoustics from the point of speech communication. And then I meet some values that I think that is there perhaps a misunderstanding. Speech transmission indexes in normal-sized classrooms at the moment is 0.80, and in classrooms where there are children perhaps with hearing impairment, specific language disorders, attention problems, or the teaching language is foreign language for them, then the speech transmission indexes should be 0.85. And actually in practice in every classroom there are such pupils in Finland at the moment. It is quite difficult to reach these values, but these are very easy to reach. Then there are values for the noise levels for this, for example, ventilation. These values are quite low, very difficult to reach. And then what is the need in Finland? The need is that to put into the practice all that we know. We know a lot of things, we know the problems, and we know a lot of things that how to do a better way, but in practice it does not happen. And that's why it needs a lot of information, why this is very important to do to a certain way, and how to do it. So I think that there is a need for a standard for communication and voice ergonomics, which include environment and practices. And actually it could collect together that we already have standards, laws and recommendations, but of course there are something that is still missing, the criteria. And then if there is a need to put some details into law, I don't know. This work is multi-professional work and co-working. There are a lot of different experts who have different expertise, and they should have main duty or mission. Let's have a look at this. There are people, they want to get good education for their children, and they also give money for that. There are taxes. Then there are representatives of local authorities who order the school buildings. And then there are teachers, and the teacher's duty is to say how is the pedagogy they are doing and how they are working in the classrooms. And those who know human physiology or psychophysiology, they should give what are the good conditions for that kind of activity, what the teachers are doing in school classrooms. And those who are planners, for instance, acousticians, engineers and so on, their main duty is to make the designs how these criteria are reached. And the builders' main duty is to build according to the plans. And then the teachers have very good environment to teach pupils. And people get well and educated citizens. We have made a lot of scientific work in Finland, and Leena Rantala will tell about that.
So this is something what we have studied in Finland, so our Finnish studies. We have made about 2 decades about voice ergonomic studies, and Eva Sala was the first one, am I right, who started this kind of perspective to voice. And we have made several survey studies, 1 big laboratory study, few field studies, and 1 rehabilitation study is under work. And the aims of our surveys have been, we have studied voice symptoms, as sounds that very many countries have done, and also surveys about voice-related disorders. Then also we have making surveys about working culture and genetic and environmental origin. We have asked, are these voice disorders more genetic or environmental? And participants in our studies have been mainly teachers, but also daycare teachers and teacher students. And this is Finnish laboratory study. It was a big study because human studies of human beings, they are rather complicated and take time, and the results are somehow always unsure because there are so many aspects that affect in human behavior. And in this laboratory study there was 40 males and 40 females. They were normal speakers, so no voice disorders and no specific profession. And the study aim was to investigate how teachers' working hours affect the voice. And the loading was about typical teacher's workday. It had also 2 rest periods. And there were different conditions, different voice loudness that the participants used, and different postures, sitting or standing, and 2 different indoor air conditions, humid and dry air. I first tell you about these study settings and after that the results. Then our field studies. We had 2 studies for female teachers, 1 study for male teachers, and then 1 study for call center advisors. The studies for female teachers, 1 had 33 females and 1 almost 80 teachers. There was asked voice symptoms, and phoniatrician made phonetic examination. Then we studied voice production and acoustic analysis for that. And recordings were made during teaching. This was this study that had a little less participants, and then was and for this part of for this study, the acoustic analysis was made from text reading and prolonged phonation, quite typical measurements that are mostly made for these kind of studies. In the study for male teachers there were 22 teachers, and the study for call center advisors was 24 females and 80 males, and they made 3 recordings during a day. And then we had made 2 voice ergonomic assessments in workplaces. 1 was for daycare centers and 1 was to schools. And risk factors were those I think that you have already learned by heart. And then voice symptoms were asked and voice use was recorded. And results, what we get, I think at no surprise from here. Oh, 1 study still. Now, yes, now I see that there is, these slides are in wrong order. This is still 1 study that is now going on, and this is this rehabilitation study. And I find myself this interesting because a quite experienced speech therapist is doing this, and she has long experience to giving voice therapy to teachers, and she is so annoying that why the teachers come again and again to her clinic, and she was thinking there must be something that she can do, although the environment is bad. and the changes there somehow happen very slowly or sometimes never. Can the teachers do something? And she think that immediately when the teacher comes to her clinic, she starts to say, do that in your classroom. Think how you can remember that. Can you do with your pupils? So this everything that is good voicing culture immediately goes their everyday practice. So will be 30 teachers who had just, I say, traditional voice therapy, so without this special emphasis for carrying good voice habits to work, and then these 30 teachers who had this special emphasis to carry over these issues, and 30 teachers without any therapy. And there will be 2-year follow-up, and this will be very time-consuming research because she has very much to do because she's mostly doing this just by herself. Now, results. So we know that environmental factors affect more than genetic ones. And voice disorders have increased during last years. And allergy belongs in that combination where teachers have also voice symptoms. And occupational health care does not know how to treat voice disorders mostly. They just say, have a voice rest, or even, we can't do anything. And teachers have voice symptoms. I think that in Maria's study there was voice disorder, so having voice symptoms is different to have really voice disorder that is already a disease. So that's why these percents are higher. And daycare centers, especially there, people have voice symptoms, also organic ones when phoniatric looks to the throat, although the workers don't know that themselves. And teacher students have also already problems. Teacher students have more problems than other students. And under voice loading, voice symptoms arise. Voice rest effects. It helps to recover larynx. But in field studies where there are teachers, it seems that they continue till next morning. So the night is not enough for them. The risk is so high in schools. And voice production changes under voice load. Voice pitch increases, loudness increases. Teachers start to speak in more pressed voice quality. These two acoustic results tell the same about the same phenomenon. This spectrum analysis tells about how functional voice quality, and also that these perturbation values decrease. I think that it tells about the same phenomenon. And about voice ergonomics, daycare centers have very high background noise levels, and only few rooms in daycare centers have good acoustics. Teachers talk longer than other professions. Now they have been compared to nurses. They talk louder. And also in classrooms there are very many, all those risk factors that we know, they can be found almost in, I think that in every classroom. There was no classroom that was without voice risk factors. And teachers, classroom teachers, they have more symptoms, higher voice level generally, before and after work day, and poor indoor. And if there is poor indoor quality, they have more laryngitis. And about this carryover study, rehabilitation study, this is preliminary data. There was 8 teachers who got this carryover method and 5 participants who got traditional voice therapy without this special emphasis of carryover methods. And voice quality get better in both of these groups. And also these teachers themselves felt that their voice was better. They felt less tiredness. But after 6 months, the results were more consistent with those who had this carryover therapy. Thank you for your attention.